In this video, we'll show you how you can build Ultimate Mewtwo. We'll show off a list that made Day 2 on the Limitless Qualifier number 4, and we'll take it out onto the ladder so you can see this deck in action. That's right, everyone, I've changed up the intro a little bit. I got a little bit bored with the old one, so we are going straight into the list right now. This is the card we're going to be talking about today, and it is Mewtwo and Mew Tag Team GX. This card has always been very, very strong. There's been lots of different versions of it. Henry Brand one with a welder-based version. There's been like an Australian kind of weakness guard energy Mewtwo version going around, and now Ultimate Mewtwo is the favoured variant. We've got Malamar ones running around as well, but we're going to look at Ultimate Mewtwo today, and that means we're going to see a whole bunch of different attacking energy types. It's going to be very exciting. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Before we see the whole list, you can see bits and pieces behind it. If you haven't already subscribed, please do that. Give the video a like so that more people on YouTube can see it, and comment. Let us know what videos you'd like to see us do next. So, Mewtwo and Mew. Perfection is the name of the game. We are going to be using this ability to try and copy the attacks of a whole bunch of GX Pokemon that we have in play and in the discard pile. Now, we are going to need to really bust through some of these cards because we have an absolute ton of things to talk about, and they're all used in very specific circumstances. Now, you can go back and watch our old Ultimate Mewtwo list video with Henry himself. There's a little note up above you can click if you want to go back and watch that, and that'll describe the general idea of the deck. What I want to do is I want to focus on stuff that is specific for the format that we're currently in, and that's Rebel Clash. So there's a couple of cards that we're seeing that have obviously been new from Rebel Clash that have come in, specifically Eldegoss V. There's a copy of this card in the deck, so we have included that one. Things like Boss's Orders as well are being played. Obviously, very, very good card. But because there is a different metagame now, we are looking at a different suite of attackers. Specifically, we're afraid of Dragapult, we're afraid of Pikarom. So we've got a couple of cards that are going to try and swing those matchups for us. Firstly, we have a copy of Mega Sableye and Tyranitar in this list as a dark attacker. This is a super, super strong card against Dragapult. If we take a knockout with Greedy Crush, we're going to be able to very, very easily run over the top of our opponent. We can Greedy Crush for 210. Dragapult, that will double the damage because they're weak to dark. 420 is going to absolutely destroy Dragapult VMAX. It's not a GX, it's not an EX, so we can't get the extra prize, but taking 3 is going to pretty much win us the game. If we've got Mega Sableye and Tyranitar into play, it's going to be very, very easy to take that knockout. Similarly, if we're playing against Pikachu and Zekrom, we're going to try and get Marshadow and Machamp out. We can potentially take a knockout on a Pikarom with Revenge, which isn't going to be too difficult to get an attack with. 30 plus 90 if a Pokemon was knocked out last turn, or we can just use 100 Blows Impact to take a knockout even if they have the Big Charm on there. So both of those attackers are very strong. We also have Mega Lopunny as a bit of utility, especially with lots of Dedenne-based decks floating around. Lopunny and Jigglypuff can be the difference between winning and losing a game. But apart from that, the deck is effectively the same as it once was when Henry played it at the Oceania International Championships. We are going to use Mewtwo and Mew to copy Solgaleo GX's Soul Burst GX attack, which will give us access to 5 energy cards from the deck. We'll attach them to our Pokemon in any way that we like, so that we've got ourselves a bit of a suite of attackers to attack with. We've also got access to ADP. If we go first in specific matchups, we can Altered Creation, which is a very strong GX attack. You might ask, well, what happens if you get your Mewtwo knocked out and all of your energy's gone? Well, we've got the big rat. The big Chungus is here. I'm going to be able to use Chuck Away for 40 times 2 if we discard 2 cards from our hand, and the best thing is that is a free attack. There is 0 energy cost associated with that attack. Apart from this, the list is super, super good. There's so many different attacks. We've got Reshizard being able to Flare Strike or use Outrage, which is super powerful. We've got Blastoise GX ready to Rocket Splash, where we can shuffle in most of our energy 60 times, which is a ton of damage. We've got Volplume GX, which is a really, really strong attack. Massive Bloom for 2 is super good. There's so many things this deck can do. Obviously, we're afraid of that Psychic weakness from Dragapult as well, so we play the Jirachi GX with Psychic Zone to get rid of that weakness. But hey, I'm not going to sit here and talk about every single one of these cards because there's almost no point in doing it. I think I've actually spoken about most of them anyway. There's a Xerneas Prism. It takes knockouts on ADPs. There's a Cryogonal. It stops locked decks from using their items. It's pretty solid. Right now I've talked about all of them apart from Dedenne, but now I've talked about all of them. So, that is our Pokemon line. We've got a ton of different uses. We've got a ton of different Pokemon. We need to be able to get into them somehow. And that is why our supporter and trainer line is very, very concise. We've got lots of Pokemon Search. We've got 4 Cherish Ball, we've got 4 Quick Ball, and we've got 2 Tag Call. That is a total of 10 Pokemon Search cards. Super, super critical because we need to get them into the discard pile if we want to attack with them. So, for example, if we want to get Solgaleo's Soul Burst GX attack off on our first turn, which of course we do, it's very, very good, we need to get Solgaleo in the bin before we can do that. So we need to find it and discard it. We also have 4 Switch and 1 copy of Air Balloon. This deck doesn't play Jirachi or anything like that, so we can use Air Balloon conveniently. That will give us free retreat on a Mewtwo. And Switch is obviously good just in case they try and gust up one of our heavy boys on the bench. That's probably not going to be too big of a problem. And we've also got Chaotic Swell so that we can slow our opponent down and stop them from using the stadiums that they want to use. Our supporter line is pretty busted as well. We've got Professor's Research as the strong generic draw support. We've got Marnie for a little bit of shuffle draw, potentially kind of constricting our opponent's hand, disrupting them as well. We've got Boss, which I mentioned before, which can gust. Guzmahala is really strong because I don't know if you've noticed, but all of our energy down the bottom here is special energy. And we also have Mallow and Lana, which again can be very, very strong against Dragapult, especially when you've got the Jirachi in play. Finally, we have Stealthy Hood. If on the off chance someone plays Shadowbox Mimikyu, Stealthy Hood will allow us to attack with our Mewtwo's, even if they have damage counters on it, so that's not a big deal. We're going to try and use that to stop our Mewtwo's ability being turned off, but you know, it could happen. It could just happen. We only play 1, whatever. And finally, before I completely go crazy here, we've got 4 Rainbow Energy, my apologies, 4 Rainbow Energies, we've got 4 Aurora Energies, and we have 2 of the Unit Energy, Water, Grass, Fire. The reason that we have these 10 energy is because they all, firstly, count for water, which is very important when you're using Blastoise GX. All of that energy needs to be water energy, so as long as they count for water, that's fine. But we also maximize the chances of us being able to use Solgaleo GX on our first turn. We might get one of these awful red, blue, green energies, but if we do, that's okay. It's not the end of the world. We'd way more likely, it's a 4 in 5 chance of getting ourselves Rainbow or Aurora, so we should be okay. We'll see whether or not that is true when we take it onto the ladder. I think this is a pretty solid effort. I really like these Ultimate Mewtwo lists. I don't think that I'm good enough to play them to a super high standard because it is a tough one to play, but we will take it out onto the ladder and see exactly how this thing works. So, a bit of gameplay here with Ultimate Mewtwo. Again, thank you very much to Sam, who's jumped in and recorded some games for us here. This is the first time I'm seeing it, so we will see how we go. We've got it on a little bit of extra speed as well, because I noticed that it was quite a long one. I don't want to be sitting here all day getting you to watch Ultimate Mewtwo, so we'll see how it goes. This is a very interesting start. We've got 2 Quick Balls, which is good. It means we could potentially find Dedenne and a Mewtwo, but we do have Professor's Research. I think ultimately it is going to... Oh, that's very interesting, ADP. It's ultimately going to come down to what our top deck is for our turn. If we find ourselves a Cherish Ball or something similar, then we'll probably go for that, and then just whatever happens next is not a big deal. Because ultimately, as long as we have Solgaleo, Mewtwo, and an attacker, we should be okay. We do need to obviously get that Soul Burst off in this matchup. So, our opponent not really doing a huge amount here. We've managed to pick up a Marnie, so I think it's about time we got started with some of these cards. We'll grab Mewtwo, discard the ADP, we'll just chuck that one in play. We're probably going to be switching into that Mewtwo at some point, and we are going to use Quick Ball. We'll get rid of Marnie. It's a bit disappointing that we have to lose so many supporters, but I guess that is the way that this one goes. It's kind of awkward. There's not a huge amount of great basic Pokemon for this matchup that we can discard. At the moment, I think Rechizard's probably the best one. Now, we do need Quick Ball, we do need Dedenne, and we probably need to find ourselves a copy of our Solgaleo as well. And the fact that we've missed it here is actually really, really awkward because now after this Dedenne, we're looking for Solgaleo, a discard card, and an energy. So we've gotten pretty lucky here. We've got the Cherish Ball, which is fantastic news. We can find the Solgaleo, and we have Aurora, so we can discard it. That's one of the real benefits of Aurora energy in this deck, by the way. And now we can Soul Burst. We'll grab ourselves all of these energies, and we'll chuck them down. We'll put 3 onto the active Mewtwo. That tends to be the way to go. And we'll put 3 onto the Mewtwo on the bench. Best thing about the hand that we currently have is if we do get half hit for whatever reason, we can always switch into a fresh Mewtwo on the bench. We can Marnie or we can Dedenne. It is completely up to us next turn. This is a perfect start. We have gone through a lot of cards though. We've only got 23 left in the deck, so we've got to be careful. Although I don't think that Inteleon V could realistically do anything next turn, especially if they can't find the V Max. So that's going to be the thing that we need to worry about. If the V Max goes missing for our opponent, then we are going to potentially have ourselves a chance. It's the bucket has come out, and that means that we're probably going to see a Snom evolving into... Well, they're going for the Marnie here, so maybe not getting that energy into the field of play with Frostmoth. They're actually giving us a look at some extra cards, and this is a very interesting hand that we've got here. We've got Zigzagoon, Eldegoss, and Dedenne here, so I'm not sure exactly what the best route of play is, especially since our opponent is just going to be giving us this knockout. I'd really like to see a knockout on that Inteleon if we can, but I don't think there's boss in the discard, so it's not like we can just go for the Eldegoss here. It might need to be a Dedenne. If we do knock out that Inteleon, I don't think there's actually a way that we could realistically lose this game from here, so the Dedenne seems like a pretty solid choice to me. We'll play that one out and see what happens. We've got Research and Cherish Ball and Tag Call. None of those are going to do the job. We will attach the Rainbow Energy to the active because there is now a good chance that Inteleon VMAX is going to be coming out. We don't want them to be getting rid of our energy and frustrating us. We've only got one boss in the deck, so that's a bit frustrating. Tag Call, I'll grab Mallow and Lana and probably the Mega Sableye and Tyranitar, because then we can either choose to discard them or we can move on from there. We can just get them into the bin. It's not a big deal. I don't think that there's even a reason that we'd want a supporter. Sam wisely holding on to everything here. I think we're just going to take a knockout on this Fione. We'll use the 100 whatever's blows, whatever it's called, from Marshadow Machamp and take the knockout. So we're not in a bad spot, but it is going to be, it's going to be frustrating now that that Inteleon comes out into the field of play. And they have also Marnied us again. That's very annoying. Now we've got our Mallow and Lana has gone missing, which is quite frustrating. It's not going to be the end of the world because we've still got plenty of resources here. The fact that our Mewtwo's are both still powered up is exceptionally good. If our opponent tries to get rid of our energy, we can just reattach it, and if they do attack us for 160, we can potentially go into Mallow and Lana, but we probably won't be able to find it again unless we top deck something like a Dedenne or a Tag Call. The only realistic thing that our opponent can do is do 160 and then 60 to the bench, so we should be okay. Should be okay for another turn, and we can half hit into the Inteleon as well, which would be very, very strong for us. And there's a Dedenne from our opponent, so there's the rest of our prizes mapped out. If we are able to take a knockout on this Inteleon at some point, then we'll be able to knock out the Dedenne and win the game. That Keldeo, though, is quite frustrating, because we won't be able to get through that Keldeo with our current list. I don't think there's anything that could realistically get through it unless we went for a Xerneas. But that Xerneas is already gone, so we are going to struggle to deal with that. Is that a second Fione, or did they shuffle that into the deck? I'm not entirely sure. I wasn't paying attention what the Ordinary Rod grabbed. I presume they must have gotten it out. But that's a very it's an oddly intimidating board state from our opponent. They are going into the Inteleon, so we do have chance here to deal some damage. Now, they'll do 160 to us in the active and 60 to the benched Pikarom, not Pikarom, what am I talking about? Dedenne. We'll attach the Rainbow Energy and then switch into the Mewtwo and Mew. This means that they're not going to be able to take an extra prize this turn. We will Marnie. It gives them an extra card, but it gives us 4, and now we're holding on to a really solid hand here. I don't think there's any reason that we would want to play any of these cards. The question is there a way that we can realistically take a knockout on this Inteleon? Rocket Splash would do the job, but the question is it worth it? I think if we get rid of the energy from that Mewtwo on the bench, we can get 4 there, and then 2 off of the active, and that should be enough to take the one shot. And the best thing about this is, now we just need a Gust and an Energy, and we are going to be able to take a knockout on that Dedenne on the bench, which is really, really strong. We're really happy to do that, and we've just got boss's orders of the prizes. Now we've got 2 in the deck, so even if they do money us, we've got multiple opportunities to get into it. So, looking pretty good. They've got the bucket, so they're going to be able to put some energy down. They could potentially go for the Keldeo here. That's probably not a bad option, especially since I cannot take any knockouts on that Keldeo. So probably not a bad idea. If they just attack into us, I think we pretty much just win the game. We've got boss's orders. Our deck is full of energy because of Blastoise GX. We can Cherish Ball, thin out the Dedenne, and get ourselves going. If they do like reset Stamp Us or something else, that's going to be very frustrating. If they manage to do that, we're going to struggle to get ourselves attacking next turn, especially for any meaningful damage. The worst thing that we could realistically do here is have that Fion go off and then not be able to retreat out. Looks like they are going into Keldeo. It's just a matter of whether they choose to. Yes, they're Sonic Edging. Okay, so we have the Gust, we have the Dedenne. All we need to do now is find an energy and we'll win the game. So we're looking like a pretty solid case here. I think we're just going to thin out a ton of these cards from the deck with Cherish Balls and the Tag Call, and we'll be able to do more than enough damage to this Dedenne. Sitting on the bench, it is going to be knocked out 100%. So let's Cherish Ball, grab ourselves the Vileplume. You can see there's a ton of energy left in the deck here, so we've got a really, really good shot. We'll Cherish Ball and grab ourselves one of these Pokemon. I think there's a Malolana left in deck, so we can get maximum value from this Tag Call. We will Tag Call to get the Sabltar and the Malolana. We're kind of going all in here. We've got 13 cards in deck and 7 of them are energy, so I'd be very surprised if we missed, but we could still theoretically miss. It is important to note that we are only drawing 6. There will be 7 left, so if we're really unlucky, no, of course not. We get 5 in our hand, and so we can just attach here, and we will be able to use pretty much any attack that we've got for knockout. 100 blows impact will do the job. Sunsteel Strike is even more damage, so we may as well declare that, just in case something hokey is going on. And those will be the last 2 prizes for us to win the game. Mewtwo and Mew is still one of the most powerful cards in the format, and until rotation, it is going to stick around. So now's probably the last chance that you're going to have to play it with any success. Once a few of those extra Sun and Moon cards move on, we are going to struggle to get this guy attacking again, but that's okay. For the moment, we can use Ultimate Mewtwo for pretty much any matchup. We've got ourselves an answer for it. So hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Thank you again to Sam for recording that one, and thanks to you for coming along. We appreciate it. If you haven't already subscribed, then consider doing so. There's a button just here. Over on this side are some videos that YouTube thinks you'll like, as well as a playlist in the bottom right corner for more Rebel Clash decks and gameplay. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at @TheSableEyes_YT, and apart from that, we'll see you next time for more from the Sable Eyes.